There's a catchy phrase that says basketball never sleeps, only this time it did. After 3 months, almost 3 months now, the COVID-19 pandemic that has hit the country has put a dark and damp cloak over sports, putting the 45th season of the PBA, which managed to play one game, suddenly the league is on hold. But now with several other leagues throughout the world, like for example, the Bundesliga, the Super Basketball Tournament in Taiwan, and the NBA is about to start. The question that many Filipino basketball fans are asking, can the PBA start anew or regain the momentum it had for its 45th season? This is the headline for the sports page.
The hottest headlines.
The integral issue.
Who will join the pantheon of the great?
What's the outlook of the future of sports?
The game changers.
The history makers.
Stories that make sports eternally compelling.
Open the sports page. Welcome, ladies and gentlemen. I'm Seb Sarmenta, and this is the sports page. What we want to do, as our title suggests, is to bring together the issues, the incidents, the personalities, the games that make up the exciting sports page, whether you have a traditional broadsheet newspaper, whether you have a website that you go to or to a destination that you go digitally. Our objective here is to talk about these issues, and to help me along are my colleagues. First, we have attorney Charlie Cuna, we have Chiki Roa-Puno, my longtime partner in covering sports, and Dominic Uy. Here we will dissect, discuss, and sometimes debate about the issues. Today, here on the sports page, we will be talking about the possible return of the 45th season of the PBA. The PBA has repeatedly said that it will abide by whatever the government has directed. And the PBA says, the government says it's okay for mass gatherings like sports to resume, it will adhere to that principle. And to discuss how the PBA can get back with that in mind, we've invited the following. We've invited, of course, PBA Commissioner Willie Marcial. From the Philippine Daily Inquirer, their sports editor, Francis Ochoa. We've invited as well, Barangay Ginebra Jenkins, PBA Ironman LA Tenorio, NLEX World Warriors coach Yang Yao. We've invited as well Meralco Bolt's assistant governor and also PBA champion coach Brian Gregorio. And from the Barangay Ginebra Jenkins, their governor in the PBA, and a coach as well, Al Francis Chua. Welcome. We have a very good and esteemed panel of guests here today to tackle all of these. But let's start at the very beginning, so to speak. Commissioner Willie Marcial, nagkaroon kayo ng meeting this week ng board, the first face-to-face meeting ang nangyari sa inyo. Ang resulta nun was trying to write a letter to the IATF. Ano naging process nyo doon sa meeting yan? Ano ang nangyari sa pagpupulong nyo?
Nag-meeting kami regarding sa protocols na isusubmit namin sa task force na ibigay na natin, sinulatan na natin yung mga dapat bigyan. So protocols para makapag-practice pa lang. Practice pa lang na may social distancing at lahat ng protocols nandoon. Sinabi nga namin, 4 na players pa lang, isang safety officer, isang trainer, per batch yun. Pagkatapos yung batch na yan, yung session na yun, papalitan. So yun ang mga binigay namin, mga protocols na sana payagan tayo ng task force.
Welcome. I just wanted to ask, after submitting that, is there a time frame? Did they say they were going to get back to you within a certain period of time? Kasi siyempre, we're trying to chase a certain number of days siguro before we can go back to practice and get the ball rolling already. Is there anything na ganon?
Attorney, as of now, hindi kami humingi ng deadline. Depende na lang sa kanila, di ba? So, kung ano sa tingin nila na pwede na, hindi natin pinapreso, minamadali.
Coach, from a coaching standpoint, how is this going to affect the preparation, let's say, of NLEX? I know you've been strongly advocating for a comeback and a relevance stand by the PBA. Anong take mo rito sa gustong gawin ng PBA initially?
Actually, lahat naman kasi tayo, I'm sure we're all excited to go back to our regular work, no? But it has to be gradual. Dahan-dahan muna tayo. Minsan nakakausap ko rin si Commissioner, no? We exchange notes on how we can start. Yun nga, importante, first of all, is we need to accept there's going to be a change of behavior from now on. Actually, swerte kami. No? Wala kaming ginagawa. Sinusweldohan kami. No? May sweldo ka. We're so lucky. And I keep telling my players, you have to share that blessing. Kailangan tulungan nyo yung kaya nyo tulungan kasi very rare lang yung ganun na wala kang ginagawa, sinusweldohan ka. But the problem is, hanggang kailan? Diba? At sa PBA, if we put it into the context of the PBA, hindi naman lahat ng teams kamukha ng team ni Coach Ale, ng San Miguel eh. Hindi naman lahat ng team kasing dami ng resources ng MVP group eh. Meron team pa rin na because of the economic situation, mahihirapan sila. Kailangan mag-umpisa tayo. Kung maghihintay lang tayo, hindi tayo pwede maghintay sa gobyerno. Kasi ang gobyerno, ang daming problema ng gobyerno eh. Hindi naman tayo iisipin ng gobyerno. Kailangan isipin natin sarili natin. Tapos i-present natin sa kanila. Boss, may solusyon kami sa problema namin. Baka pwede nyo pag-aralan.
Alam mo, Seb, nung nakikinig ako kay Coach Yeng, ang nasa isip ko lang talaga, at si LA yung naiisip ko. Kasi parang yung nai-envision ko na basketball, na larong basketball na alam natin lahat. Parang naiiba if you apply the new normal. Paano ba yun? Iiwas tayo ng konti. We cannot be breathing down on everybody's necks, but that's what we do in basketball because we are worried about our safety and the safety of our teammates and our co-players. Do we change the way we play the game? LA, on your part, bilang isang player, are you ready for a different kind of basketball?
Dito papasok yung pagiging professional namin, yung disiplina ng isang professional players. Kasi siyempre, kahit sabihin natin na 2-on-2, 3-on-3, or 4-on-4 muna yan, medyo mag-iisip pa rin eh. We don't wanna think pagdating namin sa practice na mandidiri kami sa ka-teammates namin or hindi kami all out to go pag naglaro na rin kami ng basketball. Gusto namin maglaro all out na hindi namin iisipin na new normal to. Yun lang yung sa akin. So, again, that's also our responsibility as a players. Kung nakikita nyo rin naman sa mga social medias namin na grabe rin naman kami mag-workout, ibig sabihin, we're preparing for something. We don't know kung kailan, pero gusto na rin namin na soon sana, 'di ba? As a player's perspective. But the other players have their own opinions. May mga players ako nakakausap din na medyo parang ayaw muna nila hangga't walang vaccine. Kasi meron silang mga kasamang matatanda sa bahay, 'di ba? Natatakot sila. Ako, most especially, you know, my wife is giving birth on September, so medyo nakakatakot din, 'di ba? So, but again, well, doon papasok yung pagiging disiplinado natin at pagiging responsible natin as a citizen, not only as a basketball player but as a citizen also.
Everybody's safe. Everybody got tested negative and he doesn't want to play. Mukhang nasarapan na doon sa 3 buwan na sumisweldo siya na hindi naglalaro.
This is how it feels to be a referee in a PBA game. I have to check on everybody where everybody's running right now. Dom, I know you have a question. Dom?
Yeah, I have a question. First, one of the toughest decisions that I feel are for the governors. So what is the sentiment right now of the board when you guys have your meetings moving forward? It's difficult because they're like the parents to be able to allow teams to start playing together with the commissioner's office. It's really a combination of this group of gentlemen to be able to push this forward or to stay back a little bit first. No? So what is the sentiment right now of the board and how do you see it playing along in the next few months? Coach Al?
First of all, we planned kung ano mga gagawin dapat so we can play. But the thing is, I told the governors na discipline talaga to eh. Like what Coach Yeng said in si LA na yung pagkuha ng ganito, pagkuha ng ganyan. But if we're not gonna start now, kahit konti lang, mag-iintayan tayo, hindi tayo mapapansin. Okay? Hindi tayo, sinong papansin sa atin? We just keep on saying that, kailan ba kami makakalaro? Kailan ba kayo makakalaro? Okay. We started. San Miguel tested everyone all the players, coaching staff, lahat na test. So negative. Now, some of the teams are following. Kasi yung sinasabi ni Elena, they're afraid, yung iba may nag-aalangan. So, part ng discipline yun eh. Kailangan, bago magkaharap-harap, negative, it's not gonna be one testing lang. It should be, pag negative na to lahat, and then mag-uumpisa na, kailangan i-test ulit kung negative. Then from there, they're gonna go home. Ang suggestion namin, wala nang uwian. Because if they're gonna go home, hindi mo alam kung saan pupunta eh. Tapos makakalaban mo, ganun pa rin. Diba? So it's gonna be a big sacrifice kung papayagan lang kami. Okay, we're gonna practice first, pag naayos na, and then we can play. May audience o walang audience, walang problema. Para may panood lang ang mga tao ngayon. Kaya kailangan, we're very careful, we're very disciplined pag ginawa natin to na walang sasabit. Dahil pag may isang tinamaan dyan, naghawa, tigil kagad tayo.
Okay. Thank you, Coach. I know Yang wants to say something. Charlie, you have a question, follow-up at this point?
Well, I just wanted to also find out, though. I mean, have they? I know the teams are trying to take steps already, Coach Al, to do this testing and all of that, talking about procedures and protocols. Have players actually come up to you and said that they're not willing or they're very reluctant to get things started, that they want to stay home, like what LA was saying earlier? Have they actually told the management?
Maybe they can tell that to LA, no? But I don't think they're gonna tell that to us. Hindi sila sabi ng gano'n, no? Meron, sabi ni Commissioner, may narinig siya na ayaw-ayaw. Actually, may isang governor na nagsabi kahapon, basta kung makakalaro na, payagan tayo laro. Pag may nagsabi na they don't wanna play because they're scared of this, okay, no work, no play. Pinayagan na tayo and everybody's safe. Everybody got tested negative and he doesn't want to play. Eh mukhang nasarapan na doon sa 3 buwan na sumisweldo siya na hindi naglalaro.
Ryan is waiting and anxious to get off his seat here. I can tell he's left and right. Ryan, any inputs on Charlie's question or the topic so far?
Well, for one, from an SBP standpoint, we've all received the guidelines from FIBA. But what is so obvious about the guidelines is they're pretty much dependent also on what is happening in your respective country. Now, the NBA is using 3 elements as to why they want to restart. Number one, they just want to make sure that everybody is healthy. There is always a safety component, but the most important thing is the financial future of their players and everybody concerned. Now, we are just so lucky that we have generous owners in the PBA, like the MVP Group, the San Miguel Group of RSA, who are continuously paying our players even if they're not doing anything. But what about us broadcasters? We're not getting anything. So our clamor is, please, let us start, let's play again, and let's enjoy.
That will be in one whole show. I'd just like to bring along Roa, the editor, sports editor of the Philippine Daily Inquirer. Francis, for the last 3 days, your publication has been posting full long-form articles on how the athletes are taking in. What's your sentiment? Is there, yes, let's play, it's just not sports. You can unmute your button. We'd love to hear from you.
Okay, so when we ran the special, we decided that we wanted to ask, because everyone had their opinion on whether the games were to continue or not. So we decided to ask the athletes themselves, across different disciplines. And overwhelming naman, the majority really want to go back. That's the general feel that we got from the athletes. So it kind of rhymes with what the PBA wants to do.
Coach Yang?
Sa akin kasi we have to approach it also from the point of view of science. Kasi virus ito So there is a scientific approach. Ito yung pinaka-importante sa lahat, as modeled by yung sa Europe. You have to preserve your own bubble. Meron tayong sariling bubble. We assume that within our household and our family, hindi pa naman tayo tinatamaan ngayon. Ibig sabihin, na-preserve natin yung integrity ng bubble natin kung negative tayong lahat. You want to start from a baseline. You want to have that confidence na negative kami lahat. So we have a baseline, no? So dapat ngayon negative tayong lahat, preserve natin na negative tayong lahat. And every time we do a Zoom meeting with our team, pukpok ako ng pukpok niyan. Pukpok ako ng pukpok. Yung kasama mo may anak, yung kasama mo may nanay sa bahay, tapos ikaw magiging irresponsible ka, makikipag-inuman ka sa labas or makikipag-tong-its ka sa kapitbahay mo, huwag mong gagawin yan. Kasi you're still responsible for your teammate. This is where you really practice teamwork.
We have several issues which we'll jump into as we go along. Just to look ahead here on the sports page, we did a survey, a casual survey, a dipstick survey of some PBA players, and we'll share with you later on the results of that survey as to whether they want to play or not. It's sort of to get into the idea of what they're thinking right now. We also asked one of the doctors who's an authority on the subject to lend his expertise. But so much more to talk about, and I'm sure there's so many other questions that you want to ask. We've also asked some of our fans, or few followers of the PBA, to ask their questions as well. And all this will be coming your way when the sports page returns.
First and foremost, the most important thing here is yung health and safety ng lahat ng tao. The players, the coaches, the media, the production, the staff, the management, the fans as well, pati na rin lahat ng taong involved here. So we cannot take this thing for granted. If you ask me kung ready na ba tayo bumalik ng PBA, I have mixed feelings about it. First, I'm really excited kasi tagal ko na hindi nakapaglaro ng basketball. So looking forward na ako makapaglaro ulit sa PBA. At the same time, natatakot ako because I worry for myself and my loved ones, my family, teammates ko, family nila, PBA family, pati mga pamilya nila, yung fans and lahat ng taong involved here. But I do trust the government and the PBA board can implement rules that can keep us all safe kasi malaking bagay yun na may health guidelines tayong sinusundan eh. But if they ask us to play, siguro I just wish na we can all be extra disciplined and extra careful kasi dito nakasalala yung buhay natin lahat eh. So it really takes teamwork from all of us if gusto natin mag-work tong gusto natin lahat.
Wala pang problema yung practices. Pag pumunta tayo sa game, ibang protocol na yun. Doon, pag-uusap-usap lahat ng board, kung anong gagawin.
It's really tough working right now in the coronavirus crisis. And the first question that, of course, a lot of people will ask is about there are, cases right now are continuing to increase worldwide. In my particular experience at the National Task Force, since we have not seen an epidemic all our lives, so we use reference models like the Ebola outbreak, the experience in South Korea, Vietnam. These are success stories that we would like to emulate, and then of course New Zealand and Australia. Now, I'm pretty sure that you would like to, or the PBA would like to compare ourselves with the National Basketball Association. And we heard that the NBA will start training in July. And of course, there are a lot of discussions on this one. And they said that there will be testings and so on and so forth. Now, my personal view at this point in time, since the cases are still rising and we have new cases, I think it is premature. We need a strategic planning meeting, perhaps more discussions with experts, particularly, of course, the Philippine Society of Microbiology and Infectious Diseases, with the Philippine College of Physicians, some sports physicians, and other experts. Perhaps a Zoom meeting with the PBA Board of Governors, with some experts from the National Task Force and some of the special advisors, so that we can actually plan. So we need a lot of planning here and perhaps benchmarks ourselves with the rest of the world. Now, the virus controls our movement right now, and any movement will actually might lead to transmission. So it's very, very difficult at this point in time for contact sports to adapt to a new normal, considering we need to have some reference models and a lot of minimum health standards. So it's very difficult at this point in time for us to think that of all the priorities of the government, then we have to think about sports. Sports is important, but we need to balance it with the safety of the players, safety of the public, and of course, the disruptions that may actually happen.
You just heard Dr. Tony Lechon, who is with the National Task Force and a special advisor as we deal with the COVID-19 pandemic. And he is a basketball fan and he understands where the PBA is coming from. But he also, Chicky, mentioned some precautions about coming back without further discussions and further explanations, actually.
He mentioned a lot of precautions. Actually, Seb, sa totoo lang, kung makinig ka sa kanya, at use all your emotions and not being rational, iiling ka talaga, isipin mo, naku, pwede pa kayang mangyari ito? Babalik pa kaya ang basketball? Because we can expect the IATF to be conservative in their views, no? Siyempre, ang unang iniisip nila is ang kapakanan ng lahat, ang safety, pero pagka tinatapon ninyo yung mga katagang mga premature, no reference models, parang no prior experience, we have to wait 2 years, meron siyang mga ganyan. Medyo if you give in to what you are hearing, it really is scary, sabihin natin, nakakatakot.
Part of balancing the equation here on Sports Page, that to further balance the equation, I know you have the numbers, the results of the survey that we conducted before jumping into this Zoom platform. We had asked some of the players their opinions, and we had 3 questions. And Chiki, take it away.
We did ask members of the PBA community, that's the players, the coaches, and also the coaching staff, their take on possibly resuming the 45th season of the PBA. And we had 3 questions for them, like you mentioned, Seb. First one being, do you want the PBA to resume the season soon? 64% said yes, 33% said no, and 4% was undecided. We also asked them, do you feel it is safe to continue the PBA this year? 50% of our respondents said yes, 45% said no, hating-hati halos, and 5% undecided. Finally, ang huling tanong, do you feel healthy enough to play if the PBA resumes soon? This is for the players mostly, and 86% of them said yes. 10% said no, 4% undecided.
Commissioner, I'll start with you then, Chiki, you can go to the coaches. Commissioner, anong plano ng PBA down the road as you move possibly towards creating that bubble of ours in the PBA?
Dito muna tayo sa practices. Wala pa tayo muna sa game. May mga kanya-kanya din kaming protocols pagdating ng games. Pero ito, no contact pa eh. 4 kayo sa isang buong basketball court. Social distancing. So hindi ka matatakot dito kasi safe yung player na kinakasama mo kasi ilang buwan siya na nasa bahay, safe kayong dalawa. Wala pang problema yung practices. Pag pumunta tayo sa game, ibang protocol na yun. Yun, pag-uusap-usap lahat ng board, kung anong gagawin, pwede, maganda yung suggestion niya na may kasama mga doktor o yung kanilang task force para pag-usapan kung ano maganda para sa liga at para safe lahat. Pero as of now, dito muna tayo sa practice. Sa conditioning. Kasi no scrimmages to, no game eh. So sa conditioning muna tayo, dun muna kami pumupunta. Dun muna direction namin.
Yung makikita nating changes sa practice, syempre, 4 at a time, it's not the real kind of training that they're used to. Will we, as fans, expect a little bit of a dip in the performance? Is that a realistic thing to expect from our players because of the kind of practice and training that they are made to have to do?
In a player's perspective, no, siguro dahil sa tagal namin hindi naglaro, for sure there's a parang deep na mararanasan ng players. Tinatawag nga namin kalawang as a players, 'di ba? Nandiyan din 'yan eh. But again, it's good thing also na ngayon nga nagpaplano na kahit dalawa, katulad ng sinabi ko kanina, kahit isa or dalawa lang or tatlo. Yan yun, yung sinabi ni Com, 4, malaking bagay na din yun eh. Kasi most of the players no sa bahay, hindi naman pwedeng puro workout lang ginagawa namin as individual. Kumbaga wala kaming pwedeng gawin na takbuhan na court kasi iba pa rin eh. Iba pa rin ang basketball court sa system namin as basketball players. Kung confident enough na kami na safe talaga nga yung teammate ko, 'di ba, na he's very responsible or very disciplined, siguro doon kami magde-decide na unti-unti na magkakaroon ng 2-on-2, 3-on-3, 'di ba? 4-on-4s. Malaking bagay na din 'yon. Compare sa ginagawa namin dito sa house for the past 3 months na we can be a bodybuilder now. I mean, instead of a basketball player. Yun ang ginagawa namin yun. But again, ako personally, I'm doing my workout not only because to prepare or just to be ready. I just want to be healthy. I mean, the end of the day, we're doing our workouts just to be healthy and para hindi rin tayo tamaan ng virus.
Thank you, LA. Let's go to the thinking of the coaches from the perspective of the San Miguel Group. Francis, anong sentimento ng mga coaches mo? Ito alam mo, very restless din yung mga coaches. I'm sure they want to get back into the group.
Kasi iba yung game shape na tinatawag, iba. Si LA, kondisyon niya, araw-araw nag-workout takbo. Pero pagdating may hawak ka na ng bola, may ganito, iba na So yung mga coaches namin ngayon, tanong sila ng tanong. Kailan ba pwede yung that they can play at least may nagbabantayan kahit konti? Yung ganun ba? Yung para ma-feel lang. Lahat kami, hindi namin masagot dahil sabi ko, umpisahan mo na sa 4-4. Alam mo, Seb, ang players ngayon, condition kung titingnan mo, yung mga player namin, ang gaganda ng katawan kasi workout lang workout. Hindi ko lang alam kung makakatakbo pa.
Excitement, everybody's talking about that. But I think there is also an issue of trust that has to be addressed here. Not only within your teams, pero yung trust ninyo dun sa mga iba pang mga kupunan na ginagawa nila yung dapat nilang gawin para lahat kayo ay hindi mapahamak kapag magsimula na yung liga.
Yeah, to the two coaches. Ryan?
It is an unknown for all of us. When Coach Yang talked about protecting your bubble, it was a good enhancement of our knowledge that probably I can start now. And hopefully it can be passed through the other person next to me. But this is really a tough situation for us. I want the PBA to play again. I think it is something that we're unanimous. But at the same time, it is very important for us that we protect the people in our ecosystem, our players, our coaches, our cameraman, our referees, and so on and so forth. So what I'm looking at really is the way the NBA is doing it. But there is a huge economic crunch if we follow that particular template. We don't have a Disney World in the Philippines. Tapos they are actually going to test all the players involved or even the people involved every day. And if you turn out to be positive, you're already going to be taken out of that ecosystem. Then you're going to be quarantined for 14 days. The question is, can the PBA afford that? If the answer is yes, then probably that can be a good template for us.
Francis, you have an insight or question that you'd like to ask our guests?
We just want to know really in the detail, how prepared are we to get into that? Sinasabi nga ni Coach Ryan, logistically, are we prepared? Do we have the resources to do that? How far advanced are we when it comes to planning for that scenario?
Well, we're all blinded Hindi natin alam. Diba? Even our government, hindi nga natin alam kung anong gagawin natin Diba? Ang nakakatakot dito, everybody wants to play. Yun lang ang tanong ko minsan Sabi ko, parang malabo, pero we're still trying because we love the game. Diba? Pero lahat tayo blinded talaga
Let's bring you in. Is it feasible? Yeah, this bubble. All bets are off, all things being equal. There are costs involved, which Coach Ryan began to talk about. But is it at all feasible based on that premise of changing your behavior that you mentioned earlier?
I think it's feasible if we make it feasible. Sabi ko nga, dalawa lang choice natin Either maghintay tayo ng vaccine na hindi natin alam kung kailan darating, or gumawa tayo ng paraan. Change natin yung behavior natin. So, dalawa lang choice natin. We don't have any other choice. We have to, while waiting for the vaccine, you want to try something, then you have to change your behavior by following strict protocols. So,
Ikaw nasa government ka dati, naging congressman ka, naging ganito ka. Sa sitwasyon ngayon na tinatak ng government natin, no? Tingin mo papayagan tayo na maglaro ng ganito, mag-present tayo ng sulat sa kanila or anything? Tingin mo papayagan nila after saying na walang vaccine, walang eskwela?
Dalawang puntos ko regarding that. Number one, the government is always going to be conservative regarding this. Kasi ayaw nila masisi sila. No? Ayaw nila na sila yung bagsakan sabi na namin sa inyo, huwag kayong mag-basketball eh. Yan, nagkasakit tuloy yung mga player. Ayaw nilang masabi nila yon. No? But at the same time, gusto rin nila kasi it's going to be towards the direction of normalcy.
Okay.
We have to find a way, we have to find a solution for our own problems and present it to the government. Because the government, hindi mag-iisip ang gobyerno para sa atin eh.
Okay.
Tayo mag-iisip para sa sarili natin, tapos ibigay natin sa kanila, ito yung solusyon sa problema natin, sa problema namin. Aprobahan nyo. Kung mayroon kayong suggestion, ilagay nyo dyan. Pero the government is always going to be conservative because they don't want the blame. Ngayon, kung ayaw nilang ganon, nakatunga nga tayo. Tutunga nga tayo. Even broadcasters, even yung mga production crew natin, yung mga sponsors natin, mawawala na ng gana, even the players.
Okay.
So if we don't make a move, nothing will happen.
We all are seeing how the front page is blending into the sports page, and it isn't as simple as we think it is. But there are avenues for which we can proceed. When we return to the sports page, ladies and gentlemen, we'll go and find out what the fans are thinking, because in the long run, the PBA exists for the fans. We'll bring you back to the sports page.
Ginebra ang malaking maapektuhan kasi hindi rin kami sanay. Pero ready na kami, may naka-record na talaga eh. So, ni-record namin yung galing sa Philippine Arena.
Welcome back to the sports page. The PBA would not be complete unless we have the most important element of the life of this 45-year-old league, the fans. In this issue that we're tackling here today on the sports page, we asked the fans, and Dom, what were the sentiments of the fans when we interviewed them?
Well, obviously, we have fans and they have said from Marlu Dakanay, pwede ibalik ang PBA basta payag sila na closed-door games sa YouTube or Facebook na lang muna manood. Ibalik na lang ang live audience kapag may vaccine na kontra COVID-19. From Ilo Gabriel Cabukal, if safety measures can be observed, why not? But it's really hard to push it as much as I want to watch the PBA games again. Puro replay na lang muna ng best games. Okay, so from Lyra De Vera, as long as safe, ibalik ang PBA, pero kapakanan muna nila ang isipin, kaya naman kaya naman namin magantay. So, again, we invite all our viewers to be able to be part of this healthy discussion, post your comments and once more.
Commissioner Willie, your hairdo has gone back to its 80s, and we've had it when the PBA was explosive at the Ultra and everything. We always have had that in your term also. Anong napag-usapan ng board tungkol sa fans? Anong iyong personal sentiment having been with the PBA all these years?
Talagang doon naman nabubuhay kami, mga taga-PBA, sa fans. Yun ang lagi kong sinasabi. Gusto ko mapalapit ang mga fans sa mga players, mapalapit sa PBA. Lagi, ako pro-fan, pro-fan ako. Makikita naman nyo, pag halftime, nandun ako sa kanila para makaiwas na kay Coach Sheng, para hindi ako masigawa. Hindi. So, nandun ako, kinakausap ko, tinitingnan ko din yung sentiment, anong kailangan natin, anong mas maganda. So, madami sila na contribute sa akin. So, yung fans, sa palagay ko, at sa tingin ko, pag nagsimula yung PBA, baka wala pang fans. Baka konting-konti lang, baka nga mga 7 pa lang tayo doon. Inaasahan mo na yun. Pero ang gusto nila, makakita ng basketball. Mapapanood sa TV, sa live stream, katulad sinabi ni Coach Cheng, makikita, malaking bagay yon. At sa akin, yung makita na naglalaro ang PBA, parang pag-asa na sa buong Pilipinas yon. Nagbibigay ka ng hope, nagbibigay ka ng pag-asa na, uy, dahan-dahan na normal, dahan-dahan na, ayan na yung PBA. So, yun ang sa akin.
Okay. Charlie, would you like to ask a question, please?
Well, I'd like to direct this to LA, Tenorio.
Yes,
you're gonna be playing in a venue, LA, kunyari, di ba? Sanay na sanay kayo. Ginebra, dan yung mga fans and everything. Assuming you're allowed to play, no? Once that happens, and parang closed door game, no? Parang yung nangyari din sa FIBA noon dati. And then you're not reacting to what they're doing. How would you think that would affect you as well as the other players?
Well, yun nga, katulad na sinabi nyo, no, katsaka ni Coach Sheng, Hinebra ang malaking maapektuhan kasi hindi rin kami sanay. Pero ready na kami, may naka-record na talaga eh. So, di-record namin yung galing sa Philippine Arena para yun ay pasigaw pag nakakashoot. But anyways, yes, siguro sa amin, no, well, personally, sa Hinebra, no, medyo, siyempre maninibago kami. Maninibago kami kasi siyempre kami as a team kilala ang Hinebra dahil meron kaming mga fans, 'di ba? Sila yung nagbibigay sa amin ng malaking parang malaking malaki yung factor nila sa game, no? Para sa aming team. But again, you know, for the safety of the league, 'di ba? Siyempre hindi naman talaga rin pwede. There's a lot of ways, you know, na nandiyan naman to support the team, especially yung team ng Hinebra. Meron naman tayong mga, yun nga, yung online, medyo maganda rin kung online may aabangan yung mga tao, yung mga fans, di ba? Usually, kahit nga yung mga individual Facebook Live ng mga players or IG Live ng mga players, inaabangan na rin ng mga fans eh. So, what more if matuloy na yung PBA, di ba? Di ba? So, talagang feeling ko in a player's perspective, talagang we're eager to play also, katulad na sinabi ni Com, not because for our livelihood, di ba? It's because also for the fans na, you know, matagal na nag-aantay na miss na rin mga players, mga idols nila sa PBA. But at the end of the day, it's the safety of everyone ang kailangan pa rin. So siguro sa Facebook Live muna. Pero may recorded na kami, so bibigay na lang namin sa PBA.
LA, I will know my cue when that plays. I'll just say, and listen to this crowd roar, and I will know. Dom, and then I'll go to Chicky for a question. Dom?
One of the fans actually had a really good comment. I wanted to share it lang for everyone. Everybody daw will play na nakamask, may social distancing, 1 meter apart yung depensa. And then pag magpa-timeout si coach, Zoom call na lang.
Medyo ano yun, delikado yun.
Sige na ako ng idea. Kasi sabi niya, paano yan? Magre-react yung Hinebra, walang fans, di ba? Nakabayo. Nagkaroon pa ng excuse. Kami sanay walang sumisigaw.
Walang fans eh.
Nagkaroon pa ng excuse.
Okay. Vicky, you have a question?
It's the issue of mental health, not only of the players who are deprived of the thing that they identify with the most. It's what makes them who they are. All of a sudden, all these months, hindi nila magawa yung alam nilang gawin at gustong-gusto nilang gawin. At hindi lang ang mental health ng mga players ko, hindi rin yung mga fans na umaasa din sa inyo at hinahanap nila ang kanilang kaligayahan sa inyo. All of that combined, I think maybe this pushes us to, like Coach Sheng said, look for a solution and look for a win-win solution, as hard as it might be with all of the challenges.
Well, we actually asked a sports psychologist about that. We also ran a special on mental health of athletes. And it's a point of contention that coaches have to, according to the psychologists that we interviewed, it's something that coaches have to look into, because tama din si Congresswoman Chiki, yung behavior ng athlete, his whole body, his whole mentality is geared towards competition palagi, diba? That's why we had the Michael Jordan flu game, diba? It's overcoming everything, and then all of a sudden, here's the situation where they're actually being told, hey, you have to sit this one out. So siguro the loss of parang yung identity, the loss of the ability to create something, no, championship, a legacy, a victory. No, the inability to go after that is very much affects athletes. No, and when we asked the sports psychologist about this, no, and we did the special, the number one solution that came out, no, ito yung mga, these are people who advise in Hidilyn Diaz, the people who look after our national boxers or some volleyball players, no? And the biggest advice was to for coaches to really oversee na meron ding sense of accomplishment yung mga athletes every day, no, and in this case nakikita naman natin na they do a lot of workouts, no, they do a little bit of workouts kasi at this period, sabi nga nila, it's about the little victories. There's no big victory to go after. So coaches must be able to provide them with a set of goals that they can meet every day. Para naman may nasa-celebrate silang little victory, and that helps yung mental aspect ng for the athletes.
I'd like to start with Commissioner Willie, and maybe the rest of the coaches, Coach Ryan and the others can help answer this. You keep mentioning, nababanggit mo ang August, Willie. Ano may expect natin from the board? You already had your meeting, but sa August, ano ang na-foresee mong magiging mga decision points? Not the decision, ano ang pag-uusapan nyo pag nag-reconvene kayo sa August according to your reports?
Kung papayagan na tayo ng task force mag-practice, mag-emergency board meeting kami para i-tackle ko paano na, kasi ano nang dapat gawin. Kasi meron tayong kailangan mag-renew na contract. First day of practice, first 5 days of practice. So kailangan sabihan din. Yung sa August kasi, tama ko, GovAl, nung ano pa to, April, first week ng April, na sinasabi ko sa kanila na, Gov, bigyan nyo ako hanggang August para magdesisyon tayo kung tuloy o cancel na yung liga. So, mukhang napagbigyan naman ng mga governors, yung August, mukhang magkakaroon tayo ng pag-asa. Sa akin, pag-asa na makapaglaro sa PBA. So, pagdating ng August, dun talaga magdidesisyon ang mga governors, tuloy o cancel na ang 45th season.
Coach Yeng, your response, where do we go from here?
Well, as I said earlier, no, I'd just like to emphasize now, we have to look for our own solutions. No? We have to be proactive. We are the least of the problems of the government. No? Ang daming problema ng gobyerno. Sa kanila tayo aasa na bigyan tayo ng pansin o kaya hintayin natin decision nila. I think we have to start pushing, no, for our own resumption.
Coach Ryan, your perspective, where do we go from here as we bring our program to a close?
We really cannot compromise safety. That is the most important thing that we are going to think of at this point. A lot have been said about the virus, but I really like the point of Congresswoman Chiki also, that not a lot of people are considering mental health. Marami na rin naapektuhang mga tao because of desperation. And they need another hero. And usually their heroes are on the basketball court. So that is actually our contribution to our society, just to make sure that, yes, there is hope. There is a chance for us to restart our beloved league. And for as long as protocols are kept intact, there will be no further escalation of the situation. In case there is, we should not panic. We know exactly the implementing guidelines that we will do moving forward. But at this point, we just have to keep on pushing forward. We know exactly what it has done, the number of percentage that it has cost lives. And it's scary. But at the same point, fear at this point should just propel us to think of creative ways to restart our league.
So coaches, Coach Yeng, don't worry. Kami mga governors were planning with the commissioner. Pero kami plan A, plan B, plan C na isasabit natin sa government. We're thinking of something para ma-open to. Mukhang lumuluwag. You know, when we started, wala talaga, halos walang pag-asa. And then siguro na pag-usapan namin, August hanggang August magde-decide tayo. Kahit isang conference lang hanggang December, all Filipino, makakalaro tayo. And I think it's about, tama yung pinag-uusapan natin na kami ang gagawa ng paraan, kami ang gagawa ng sulat to present it to the government para payagan makapaglaro ng PBA, para mabigyan ng saya at mabigyan ng pag-asa yung mga Pilipino. Kasi once na nakapaglaro ang PBA, mismo yung mga tao dito sa Pilipino may mapapanood, may makikita silang pag-asa kasi nag-start na tayo.
Luis Alfred Tenorio, my dear former student, and yeah, let's see. What are the sentiments of the players? I know you want to play. Na-magnify ba yung role nyo, yung importance ng pagiging PBA player, lalo na nitong pandemic? Nadagdagan ba yung challenges? Did you miss the game, LA?
Well, definitely na-miss namin yung games. Na-miss namin maglaro sa basketball. Na-miss namin ang mga teammates namin. Na-miss namin yung practice, yung competitiveness in practice. Siyempre, definitely na-miss namin yon. But yes, you're right, sir. There's a lot of challenges and marami ring reflection na nangyari itong pandemic na to, especially sa aming mga players. No, we're very grateful and we're very, very, very blessed and thankful and lucky because katulad niya ng unang-unang sinabi ni Coach Cheng na swerte kami kasi sinisweldohan pa rin kami kahit wala naman nakukuha sa amin ng kumpanya, 'di ba, na nakapalit. Basically, we're like parang sa advertisement yan na hindi naman tayo nakikita sa TV pero sinisweldohan pa rin. We're very lucky, we're very blessed talaga. We're very fortunate and we're very thankful sa aming company, especially kay sa mga boss namin, kay Boss RC and the San Miguel. I always tell this to my to my teammates. Pag nag-uusap-usap kami na we have to be grateful and we have to be contented on what we have right now. 'Di ba? And we just have to continue to work and show our parang mother teams, 'di ba, ng mga boss natin na kahit ganito ang nangyayari sa atin, we're doing our part. May mga teammates na minsan hindi rin maiwasan lumabas, 'di ba? Napapagsabihan naman namin na nakakausap namin na we have to do our part to help the PBA, the governors so that mas mapadali ang decision nila. Itong this coming August, 'di ba, na magkaroon ng test, walang ma-positive sa atin. Kasi ang hirap naman, bago pa lang August, bago pa lang mag-start, may positive na, mahirap na, 'di ba? So, there's a lot of challenges. Talaga mahirap matulog kasi knowing that you're not gonna do anything the next day. You're not looking forward to anything, 'di ba? Unlike pag magpa-practice kami, tulog ka na maaga kasi you're looking forward to practice, and then pag may games matutulog ka na maaga, diba, looking forward for games. Pero this time yun yung malaking challenge din sa akin. Alam ni we usually talk ni Com and ni Governor Al, ni Boss Al, ang hirap talaga matulog sa gabi. Sinasabi ko sa sarili ko na just have to work, to continue to work and to show na yung team ko, yung mother team namin na nagpapasweldo sa amin na we're doing our part. As a professional.
We'd like to thank Commissioner Willie Marshall, Governor Francis Chu of Ginebra, alternate governor of Meralco, Coach Ryan Gregorio, head coach of NLEX, Coach Yang Diao, and LA Tenorio, even Francis Ochoa is here. Thank you for joining us. Please don't go too far away. We'll wrap up the sports page, put it to bed, but not without you when we return. The PBA's 45th season was envisioned as a grand celebration of the professional league's life here in the Philippines. But COVID-19 had other plans. But here today on the sports page, we have discussed the possibilities that maybe it's time to build our own bubble and live within that bubble. Slowly, taking baby steps along the way as well, the PBA hopes to get back whenever it is possible for basketball to bounce again in our neighborhoods, in our venues, and in our lives. In behalf of all my colleagues here, thank you for joining us. We now close the sports page.
The hottest headlines.
The integral issue.
Who will join the pantheon of the great?
What's the outlook of the future of sports?
The game changers.
The history makers.
The stories that make sports eternally compelling.
Open the sports page.